Hello, everyone. Welcome to Living the Liminal this week. I'm so glad you're here. If you've been listening with us for a while, you know that I just kind of like to spice things up. And this season, I have decided to have a co-host as a guest. And so Pam Muller has been my co-host for the last 2 weeks. This is our third. We're doing a 3-part series on life as mirrored reflection, because mirrors are great for that reflection. Sometimes what we want to see and sometimes what we don't want to see. It has been so much fun having you here these last few weeks. And if you are someone new to us, by all means, please go listen to the other episodes with Pam and I, because I walked away each time like, oh my gosh, I had so much wisdom and so much insight. And it just kind of comes. We didn't plan these conversations. We just kind of like, we had the title, but we're just rolling with it. So we don't really always know what we're going to talk about.
We don't ever know what we're going to talk about.
We never know. And what's so beautiful is Pam and I are on this journey together, but separately, right? And we sort of found each other way back in my first, I think my second episode, my second season, episode 32. So maybe it was my third season. And she's a dream expert, so she has all this knowledge and this wisdom, and we just instantly connected. And on journeys, so these inner pilgrimages, these journeys, you will find you meet people. Kind of like, I'm going to tell this story because Pam and I went to Sedona. So Pam and I are doing this retreat. So if you're listening, it's January of 2022, and we are doing a retreat this year. Woohoo! In September of 2022. We've been working on it for 1.5 years. It's been this beautiful exploration, and it's just been sort of molding and building itself in a way, and we just show up and do the work, right? So we decided back last September that we were going to do this fun launch, because we couldn't do the retreat then for a lot of reasons, and we had to move it out 1 year. And so we're like, let's just go build up this excitement and get people going. And so we had so many funny moments that really showed that you meet people where you are. You meet the people in your life in a way that you need them. And maybe you don't even sometimes know why you need them, or maybe they're meant to be long-term, short-term, whatever, but you will meet people or experiences depending on what you need. Your soul needs to grow and expand and evolve. So one of the moments, and then I'm going to talk about Pam and I for a moment, but one of the moments we were in Sedona, if you remember, Pam, we decided to go to this vortex, okay, because we're all about it, but we don't want too much walking and hiking. So that's how we're similar, but we wanted to experience everything everyone's talking about, right? So we go to one. Well, okay. I'm not a hiker. I don't do the appropriate research. I'm owning this, that you kind of need to do when you're showing someone who's never been to Sedona where we're going. I'm just like, oh, we'll find it. Oh, it'll be okay. Oh, I have the address. Oh, it'll be fine. So we get to this and I know nothing. I don't even know where to start walking. And I'm trying to remember, because I've been there 2 other times. So I'm trying to really remember, because that's what I do. See, I try to do it all on memory because I think, well, that's exactly how it works. I'm not going to go do all this other stuff. So we're sitting there, me and Pam, and all of a sudden, this dude shows up, okay? And I instantly realize there is a bigger reason that this dude is showing up than just to show us how to get to this vortex and where to walk. And literally, she calls them a Sherpa. I am like just drawn to the energy of this person. And I am like, oh my gosh, I can't even hardly speak or talk, because there's something going on within me and around me with the energy of this person. And I kind of came up with this funny nickname for him because it helped me to feel into what I was feeling. Well, she had a total other nickname. And one of the things I realized is, as much as we are so much alike, that was like the one moment that I realized we are completely not alike in this way. I was drawn to this person. I was ready to just like tag onto him, put him in my suitcase, take him everywhere. Like, here I am. And Pam was like, I'm totally done after about 5 minutes. He told us where to go and now I'm done with him. I don't need to follow him. And I'm like, oh, no, we have to follow. I'm feeling this energy. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And do you remember that? It was like I just kept laughing. And he was like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. You people are getting on my nerves.
Yeah.
So go ahead. It was just
you and he like sunk into this beautiful, deep, like spiritual, existential conversation. I was just like, I've never been here before. I want to see the place that we're here to see. Like, I want to do the hike so I don't actually miss it in deep conversation. At one point, I even said, like, I'm going to let you guys finish this part. The top is like right there. I can see the summit. I'm going to go walk to it. You guys catch up with me later. And I just left y'all.
I know. And then like
deep conversation.
If you remember when we left and we're driving back to our Airbnb, we were laughing because you were like, oh yeah, I was done with that. Like, he showed me what he needed. I got what I needed. I was done. And I was laughing so hard because I'm like, oh my God, I just could have seriously still taken him with me. Like, I just wanted whatever that was, it was hilarious. And my point of telling this story is that you meet what you need along your pilgrimage or along your journey of life. You meet people, you meet relationships, you have experiences, and sometimes they just are beautifully orchestrated, and sometimes they rock the shit out of your boat that you're in, your life raft, because you don't understand why you're bumping into this person. They seem to be in contrast to who you are. And sometimes, I mean, let's just get real. You like want to pull your eyelashes out. You want to poke their eyeballs. You want to flip them off. You're mad. You're irritated at some of these things.
Yeah.
And I think that's the funny part of life.
When you can laugh. I think when you're not absorbed into it, like when it doesn't own you, like, oh my God, this person is wrong and everything they're saying is so irritating and everybody knows it. You know what the catchphrase that I learned that is based in psychology is, if you spot it, you got it.
If you spot it, you got it.
If you spot it, you got it. So if there's something that irritates you in somebody else, it's because there's a part of you that is irritating that you aren't owning into. You're projecting all of that shadow work onto them. They're your shadow, right? If you spot it, you got it. So I'll tell you a story as a highly sensitive person, which I talk about a lot because it was so groundbreaking for me to discover that is an innate trait of, 20% of the population are sensitive, which means that everything is sensory perception I absorb on a high definition level, right? Where other people see it at standard definition level. So I can't turn off absorbing all this sensory input. So it leads to frequent overwhelm and emotional, like deep feels, highs and lows, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I've observed that there's a difference between extroverted, highly sensitive people and introverted, highly sensitive people. So
yes,
here's the difference. Here's the difference. It from my observation, right or wrong, whatever. This is just my lived experience. I am introverted. And when I sense something,
I'm only laughing because I'm like, that's so true. And I'm an extroverted empath.
Yes.
I go into the big, fat, orchestrated, lots of hundreds of thousands of people and sit and go, oh, this feels so good. And it doesn't really, but I believe it does. So go ahead.
Well, so here's the difference between us. And this is where, because I had a friend, or I have a friend who is extroverted, and he used to just get on my ever-loving nerves. And I just couldn't. Well, my brother is extroverted HSP too, and he's the same nerve. He got on the same nerve for me. I couldn't be around him for very long. And I finally figured out why. Okay, so now I can. So an introverted, highly sensitive person senses tension in a room, let's say. Somebody is getting really irritated, or there's some emotional tension rising. As an introvert, what I do is I log it and I wait. And when something breaks in the room and that tension comes out, I'm ready. I'm prepared to do triage and do my emotional work with whoever it is. With an extroverted, highly sensitive person, they're going to name it as soon as they feel it.
I'm going into the line of fire and I'm going to figure it out and we're going to move on.
They're going to just be like, excuse me, so-and-so, blah, blah, blah.
I'm like,
blah.
can we call it out? Can we talk about the big elephant in the living room? Can we just like figure this out? Because like, I can't function right now and we got to figure it out.
Right. And that sends me through the roof because I'm like, oh my God, you've just disturbed everybody else who had no idea. Like you've just rocked all their boats. Now I have to care for those people. That's what it is. That's the difference. That's the way it like it. So Anthony, my brother, would just come into a room naming stuff left and right. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, shut up. Like, don't say it out loud. We have to wait until it emerges, right? Until the right time. And then we will administer to the person it belongs to.
And my learning over the last handfuls of years is to learn to wait. I am learning. See, I just hit my hand because it doesn't like that. I am learning to pause. Christy, you can be well aware of it. You can recognize it. You don't need to share it yet. Just kind of spot. And you know, like sometimes I do really good with that, but sometimes I'm like that little kid who's got to open that package before Santa Claus comes because they find it hidden in the wherever their parents hid it.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
And I just got to peek in. I mean, it just takes over my existence and I got to peek. And so that, like my family here knows that. So they'll be like, seriously, you just had to say that? You just had to do that? And I'm like, well, yes, I had to figure this out so we can have calm and peace. Where
and can you guess what my learning has to be?
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Not that.
My learning has to, because my problem is when I absorb it, I end up owning it. And then I can't enjoy, I don't participate in the rest of the evening because I'm waiting. Yeah. I'm waiting for this thing to arise. I'm watching, I'm tending to that person. And I've abandoned myself altogether because of this thing that is out there.
What's coming to me is like, we both have backpacks, right? We both carry backpacks because we are these highly sensitives. Okay, we absorb all this. So we carry backpacks with us. Uh-huh. Your backpack is on your back. So when you get all that stuff, you just shove it back there and you're waiting until you need to retrieve it. My backpack is like those baby bunting things where you hold the baby right here. Mine's right here. And I'm like, let me give it to you. Let me give it to you. Let me figure this out. It's not mine. Like I know automatically it's not mine, but I want to figure it out. I want to get everybody calm, happy, peaceful so that I can then enjoy myself. So it's funny that we come to moments so differently and our learning is so opposite. And yet it sort of just works. It meshes together because we balance each other in that way. It's like opposites attract in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a very good complement because we both have the same amount, I think, of ego development. Like you can't hurt my feelings really, like I don't get rubbed the wrong way anymore very often, self-assuredness. And so because of that, we can coexist and participate in union with each other and communicate concert with each other and be fine about it, right? Whereas before, undeveloped, I would snap at my brother. I resented him in the room sometimes. Like he was my shadow. Mm-hmm. You spot it, you got it. That what bothered me about him was undeveloped in me. He was able to compartmentalize and disown those things. He knew they weren't his, and he was naming them. And I'm like, you don't say it out loud. Mm-hmm. I
don't think one is better than the other. I don't think wherever you are is a good place or a bad place, or you're not developed enough, or you're not aware enough. I think it's like when we talk about all of this stuff, let's put some lighthearted stuff to it. Okay. we talk a lot about heavy stuff. And while we're talking about it, maybe it doesn't seem as heavy to Pam and I because we've lived through these things. So it's kind of like, yeah, this is just part of what we do. Yeah, this is just part of what we do. The other thing is we all agreed at some point, right? Our souls agreed to come into this earthly place and to be an earthly being, to be a human being in this beautiful orchestrated world, to be a personality per se with, and the personality wants to have fun and laughter and be playful. So, that's why I joke a lot about, like, here's the example coming to me. I was driving to, my second son goes to college about 2 hours away. And we were driving to the tailgates because we do that in the fall a lot. We go every Saturday. So in this one particular weekend, my husband was already there for a dad's weekend. So it was my daughter and I in the car. And the road leading that you take 2 hours on to get to the tailgate in this small town, it has gotten very crowded over the past few years because everybody's going, right? Especially if you hit it at the right time. Well, I'm not the best driver. And sometimes I have impatience because this is part of my learning, whatever. I could go on and on. So I'm driving and, sometimes I kind of have road rage and sometimes I kind of have fun with the road rage. And sometimes I try to be really good, especially like when my 16-year-old daughter's in the car, because, you try to feel like you have to model all that stuff. Well, this particular day we're going and I am like, what is this woman on my butt for driving? And I'm like, listen here, sister, like, I can't go anyplace else. I can't get over. I can't go any faster than the people in front of me. But I mean, you could just tell the tension and see, because being highly sensitive, being this empath, I can feel her energy as if her car is literally right underneath my butt and we're both driving on top of each other. So for me, it feels bigger than even what probably it was. Mm-hmm. And we're driving and my energy is just like rolling because I'm like, are you kidding me? And sometimes when I'm in those moments, I just let it happen. I'm like, okay, you know what? The role I'm playing at this point is the role of the human being. And I'm going to bypass and let go of all this other I shouldas and I have to's, right? And I'm just going to roll with this. So I end up finding this little stretch of a moment on the road where I could pull up, I could kind of get over into the other lane and she zooms past me. She does. Okay. I'm not going to say that I'm impressed with myself here. I'm going to flat out give the caveat to it. It wasn't that I was proud of it. Probably in hindsight, maybe shouldn't have done it. I'm still using the words maybe because it felt really good in that moment. I'm going to be okay with that.
Oh my God, what happened?
Well, I flipped her off and I started saying stuff that wasn't nice. Now she can't hear me. I'm saying it in the car. And I'm also laughing as I'm saying it because I'm more consciously aware. So it's almost as if I was perched up high, looking at myself doing this, going, oh my God, you're a freaking idiot and you're hilarious. And what are you doing? You're like giving your energy to everyone. And you're like, what did you think is going to happen? So I can hear myself say all that. And in the moment I was like, this is hilarious that I am even doing these things because they're not getting me anywhere. It's just wasted activity, I guess.
Yeah, and gonna do it anyway.
And I'm still going to do it because my heart was saying, go for it, girl. You got it. It was like I was in the stadium and the cheering was just going on. Something overtook me, right? And so my daughter starts laughing. She's like, Mom, what are you doing? What are you saying? And that made me laugh even harder. And it made me want to say it even more because literally it was like the terrible amount of words coming out of my mouth projected onto this person who doesn't even know me. He's not affected by anything because we're in close cars. So I'm just doing it. And we laughed, could not stop laughing. So the whole moment bypasses, kind of ends. And we laughed the entire rest of the hour and a half drive. And then when we got to where we go, she's telling the people at our tailgate the stories and we're still laughing. And to this day, I can still laugh. And I think it was the most fun moment of my entire life because I took a little vacation from the have tos and the shouldas. Mm-hmm. And I just sort of sat back, let it all come and just let myself unravel for a moment. And there's some good energy that can come in. Like, I know we're not technically supposed to act that way, but no one was harmed. It was like this free moment. It wasn't like I was hurting someone else.
Yeah.
And I kind of had fun with it. I'm going to be honest. I kind of did.
I mean, absolutely. Absolutely you did. And what's so great about it is that was raw honesty. That was present moment, emotional eruption in a safe container that was free, totally free and honest and raw. And you allowed it, and you chose to allow it. And it was like, blah, and it taught your daughter a whole bunch about laughing at yourself and a safe way to express,
and not taking life
so
seriously.
Not taking life so seriously. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing that I wrote down that is making me think of this is like raw honesty is such a relief.
Yes.
And it's also not pretty. Raw honesty is like gritty and shitty and ugly and like the blood and the guts of real life.
Yeah.
Makes our filters like non-existent. We could paint a picture of a pasture and cows, right? But when you're standing in a pasture with cows, it stinks. It's hot. You get bugs that bite you. Like there can be some real raw, shitty experiences. We're going to just cuss on this one, I guess. I'm sorry. But like, that's what it is, that there's this like grittiness to it. And it's such a relief when you live the grittiness and you just own it. And
I feel like you can breathe better. You breathe. You bring air into your life. You just sort of like float around. Like, I want to hug the person who is raw and honest with me. I want to hug you. I don't care what your story is. There's no judgment here. What's coming to me is this moment. Years and years and years ago, I was working out with a trainer. And I have this very curious nature about me. I just love asking questions. I love getting to know people. I watch movies for the same reason. That's why sometimes I can watch the cheesiest movies to the most intense dramas. I just love the energy of getting to know the psyche and the behaviors and the whys and the I just get jazzed up about it. So we're walking on the track together, and he's, helping me train. And I remember asking him some questions. He had kind of alluded at point that he was like a recovering addict. He was into some stuff. And I was like, I just went there. I just really went there. And I started asking questions, and he just started answering them. And it was this like free flowy, just nice, really lighthearted, deep conversation. If it's that contrast. And I just listened, and I just was like, huh, okay. And he stopped on the track, and he looked at me and he said, I have never been with someone who I told all those things that I did, who did not react. You just sat there and let it just kind of float on by you. And I was like, well, I don't have any thoughts about it. Like, okay, do I think it's terrible to do the drugs that you did? I don't know. I mean, you certainly had a reason. You're alive today. There's got to be some purpose in that. Who am I, right, to put judgment that that's bad for you? Because if I truly do believe that we're all here for purposes and we're all here for meaning, then maybe that's something you needed to do. I don't know. I don't know why you chose it. And maybe you chose it for no freaking reason. It just happened through your life. But who am I to say, like it was such an aha for me too, for him to say that to me, because I'm like, well, of course I don't have any, I'm neutral about it. Like, I just don't even, and I've had that said to me a lot of times, where people will share something, and then I think it even like freaks them out that they've shared such deep stuff. And I just kind of sit there and I'm like, huh, okay. Because it's not that their information matters to me. It's their story. They owned it. They needed a safe place to say it. And I'm really okay with that. But I love raw honesty. I just want to hug people. I want to welcome them in. I want to take them in my little suitcase with me everywhere I go. I just think, oh my God, you are more of a beautiful person when you can just be raw honesty versus all that hiding, projecting, orchestrated stuff. Because what happens is I feel into that other part and I think, you're not being honest with life. And while I'm not going to judge you, I just don't know that I can be in that space with you.
Yeah.
Because there's barriers that I'm going to have a hard time being my real self if you're not going to be your real self, because then we're doing some kind of dance and I don't know the moves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, you know, for me, maybe the way to access raw honesty, because our egos lie to us. We don't know when we're being honest with ourselves and when we're not most of the time. Totally. We're not being honest with ourselves most of the time. But when I can access raw honesty is during suffering and tragedy, which is unfortunate, but also accurate. There's so much raw honesty that I learn about myself when I get to those breaking points. And it doesn't have to be intense suffering or intense tragedy, but it can just be like, you know what? I'm so tired of pretending. Yeah. And then it erupts out of nowhere. And all of a sudden I've got this, like, I'm spewing raw honesty everywhere. And I'm like, and I've cultivated this awareness, this living the liminal in such a way that now I can, what you were saying, I can operate from this wiser self and this deeply grounded in honesty, raw, expressive self at the same time. Yeah. So recently I've started practicing that in my household, in my own house. I'm always amazed at how my habits of being a people pleaser return over. And I'm like, oh God, here I am people pleasing in my own house. I should be comfortable in my own house. So my husband and my son communicate the same way. They're very logical. Emotions don't usually factor into their decision making or their concerns about life at all. So being a highly emotional being who I operate 100% through my emotions.
Right.
I've had to practice communicating with them in a way that'll get through. Because I try to be passive and they don't hear me. They can't. They don't get it. They don't assume things. So I remember this moment when I don't even remember what it was, but I remember they were talking and something got missed. I got my feelings hurt and neither one of them noticed. And we kept going. And normally I would let that go and I would go like, well, it's my problem. I need to just deal with it, right? I'm the one that got my feelings hurt, so they aren't bothered. So let me not bother them with it. But whatever it was, I had been cultivating this awareness. But my new way of expressing it is, look, I know this isn't about you. I know I'm triggered right now. and then I'm free to say whatever I want because I'm owning that this is not, I'm saying it wrong.
You set the stage.
As long as you set the stage, you're good. But I'm yelling about it and the yelling feels good, right? So it's this like raw honesty with this dual perspective because I'm so good at that. Like I'm so good at understanding and thinking and understanding where it's coming from. And like, this is a trigger. I was raised this way. I'm sure it came from my mother. Like I just will talk through my own issue as I'm yelling, but I'm yelling. So then it feels good. I get to be heard. I can cry, and it just all comes out in the same word vomit.
I really think that raw honesty is also about allowing the messiness of any kind of a moment to just be what it is so that we can sift through, we can kind of get in there and find the crystal. We can find the diamond in the rough. We can pull out the like when you go on vacation and you come back with souvenirs. So it's like, I think raw honesty in those moments when we can sort of allow ourselves to just unravel and not overly think about how we're doing it, why we're doing it, who are we affecting, who's going to come, what all this means. If we can just let it all come out messy, I feel like it's like being on vacation and then you're going to come back with a souvenir.
Nice. Oh, nice.
And that souvenir is going to hold some kind of wisdom that you didn't know before. Because if you think about it, okay, if something is knotted up, I mean, one, it's not an easy process to unknot it, to unravel something, right? When it's all kind of like, or I think about even like the Christmas lights when they're all kind of, I mean, I'll be honest, I take that shit, toss it in the trash can. I don't even care if the lights are working or not. And I'm back to the store going, how many do we need? I'm not doing all that extra work. Right. But sometimes in these moments, you have to, like when you're pulling on a pair of sweatpants and you have a knot in it and you've got to undo the knot. So sometimes we have to undo the knots and sometimes we can just throw it in the trash and start over. And in doing that, there's going to be a whole lot of stuff that you didn't plan on, right? Emotions and energy and the way it's going to come out and the cuss words and the movement that goes on to unknot that. And yet when you get it all done, there is some kind of a souvenir that comes out. Something that you get to take with you. And I just love the realness in people. It makes me laugh so damn hard because it's like, well, we can't just always be one way. That's not the way life works. We agreed to come here to be these multidimensional kinds of people. And why not let yourself unravel and just be real?
I just, salt of the earth, right? Salt of the earth kind of people who've been through shit I just have so much respect. For people who have been through some shit. Like when my father died, suddenly, it was the second tragedy of my life, I guess. And I was like, oh my God, this is what people have been going through when they've lost a parent in the past. And I immediately wanted to run back to those people who I knew, my high school friend whose father died suddenly when I was in high school. I was like, oh, I was so absent from that. I thought I was being there for you, but I had no idea. I had no concept. And so once I had that experience, as bad and difficult as it was, it ripped away some sense of the way I thought things were, got ripped away, and everything was more visceral and more real and more gritty and more honest. And I respect it more now. I respect that experience more. I respect the depths of people's experience more. I understand grief in a way that allows me to make space for people who are grieving more. And so I don't know. I watched that show, The Great, on Hulu, that is about Catherine the Great. It's such a, oh my gosh, it's so funny. It's a good show. Such a good show. You have to watch it. It's a satire and it's raw and raunchy and just hilarious. But there's a particular scene, but also it's really very smart in places. I've learned a lot about history from that show because it shows you like kind of a current version of what, ancient Russia was like back then, and you kind of get these new perspectives. So anyway, there's this general in the show who is who's a drunk and he just wants to go to war all the time, and so he and Catherine have these disagreements about going to war. He's like, just let me go to war, let's go to war. And she's like, well, be diplomatic. And there's this one scene which I tried to find but could not find again, where they're at this, like, the conversation or the discussion fight reaches a head. And she says, I will not send a whole bunch of people just out to die. I don't want a whole bunch of people to just die.
Right.
His response is, I don't want a whole bunch of people to die either. But when those boys go to war and they see the horrors that are real and they see what they are capable of doing and they own their darkness, they come back as changed men.
Mm.
And in that moment, I was like, damn, I hear that. Like, I felt it.
Owning your darkness. I kind of feel like that's like, I mean, like we're always thinking we're talking heavy, but I feel like these things are just so incredibly needed to be understood in your life, that part of having fun and being playful is this concept of owning your darkness. Because then when you're, unraveling in the car to somebody who's driving next to you, you can just sort of laugh it off and not take it personally, because all you're doing is owning this part of you that just had a little explosion. It's a little shift that takes place.
It is. It's almost like you recognize that your value is not at stake if you make a mistake, if something goes wrong, if something, goes awry the way it's not supposed to. Like, also,
Or if you act out of
it
the
doesn't
ordinary.
change who I am. It
Yeah,
doesn't affect my
change who
value.
you are.
Right.
Behavior and an action that you have chosen in the moment.
Yes.
For whatever reason. Like, it doesn't even matter what the reason. It's not changing who you are. Who you are never changes.
Yeah.
You may be expanding, you may be growing, you may be evolving, but who you are, your worthiness, your deservingness, your being doesn't really change.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you choose different actions for whatever reason in moments. And sometimes you can't even explain it because, yes, it comes from an unconscious place.
Yeah. You own the mess. You own the imperfection. You own right? Again, like the blood and the guts of life.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
There was a moment for about 18 months, my father-in-law lived with us and we were caregivers. Now, this is not a decision I took lightly. In fact, I remember when my husband came and asked me, my answer to him was, I understand that no is not an option here because I understand and I agree why we're doing what we're doing. But no is going to be hard. So when it becomes hard, you're going to have to meet me in the moment. And there was a moment that was about a good year after he came. And we were not expecting him to live with us for a year. That was not the intention. The understanding that was met with the intention for saying yes was that it would be a year or less. That's about how much time. And we purposely and very intentionally said yes to this because we wanted to give him love in those latter moments. Okay, so this is a year into it. And very, very much aware, this is not going to happen anytime soon. Okay, I need to change the paradigm here because my rawness was I was getting pissed off. I was exhausted. I was juggling too much trying to do all this. And there was a moment that my husband and my brother-in-law were like, why don't you go take a break? You need to get out of the house and take a break. So my brother-in-law, who lives in Florida, and we live here in Missouri, we swapped places. So I went to his place for a while, the whole break, and he came here and helped my husband. So in that break, I started to have awareness. Well, I'm on the plane going to my awareness, right? And my phone rings and it's my husband. And he's like, I just want to let you know, I know you're taking off. And I almost didn't even answer the phone, but he said, I just want to let you know that you're going to be seeing a ton of emails and phone calls because dad fell and the ambulance has to come get him. And so I just didn't want to worry you. It's all fine. We got it taken care of. Go have a good time. So I'm on the plane and there's this moment, and I was so afraid to tell him of this moment, but there was this relief that came over me. And I thought, oh, finally, we're here. Finally, we're here. This is now the beginning to his end. And I am going to finally be able to let go of all this. Well, it took another 8 months.
Wow.
Because in order, I mean, a lot of stuff has to go on when you're choosing whether you're going to move on in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And the will of the ego can hold you into a place of staticness where you don't move. But I remember I was so almost embarrassed to tell my husband that. There was a relief that came over me, and I thought, oh, finally, we're here. Like, because I wanted out of this situation. It wasn't what I wanted anymore. And when I finally was in a raw moment with him and told him this truth, he was like, oh, I totally get that. I was having the same thought too. Like, and it was like this witnessing these, like you talk about owning your darkness, witnessing the darkness of another person in a very raw way, to me is just what life is really about. It's not all about choosing the pretty and choosing the right role and the identity and wearing the right clothes and having everything. It's when we can meet each other in the darkness and still see the wholeness. To me, that is what it means to have a well-oiled, well-orchestrated, well-conscious lifestyle. That's the kind of world I want to live in. That's the kind of world I want to create.
So being the mirrored reflection for people's wholeness when they don't necessarily see it themselves, when they are in a moment of, I don't know what the opposite of wholeness is, brokenness, which we all
their perceived brokenness.
Their perceived brokenness, right? Showing up and radiating wholeness reflects that wholeness so that they can see it too.
Yeah.
And it's not about, I'm going around fixing people and looking to say, how do you feel like you're broken? Let me show you your wholeness. It's not about that. It's about being vulnerable and asking for help when you need it, and admitting those things you feel shameful about and owning them, and noticing how, when it comes out of my mouth, I watch myself not be broken. I watch myself survive it and still be me. I watch it not kill me. The lie is that when I keep something secret, the lie is, oh, if you let me out, you will die. You can't let me out. If you let me out, this will kill you. That's an extreme, right? But that's how
intricate our
that's how
mind.
stories get told. That's how our ego gets, that story that we continue to tell ourselves. Keep it in, keep it in. They don't need to know this about you. If they find out, it's all over. And then the realness is just being vulnerable with people.
I remember the first time. A mom of 4 kids can get extremely exhausted very quickly. And I remember this one moment looking around to this group of women in the summer. So school had just ended. We were, I don't even remember, at a park or the swimming pool or something. And maybe we were like 2 days into summer. And I looked at this group of women, and what flew out of my mouth was, oh, there's 65 days left until school starts. And they looked at me like, school just ended. And I said, oh yeah, I'm already counting. Like, we're 2 days in and I'm already counting. And they were like,
65 left, guys.
Oh my gosh, no, I love my kids being home. I love all this time. And I'm like, really? Like, how? Please educate me. How? I don't get it. I love my kids. Like, I love being around them, but who in their right mind wants 24/7 for 3 freaking months of no structure, no responsibility, nothing?
Chaos.
You don't have to go to bed early. You don't have to get up. You don't have to be anywhere. I mean, this isn't even like when they were babies, because when they were babies, there was a structure. You had to eat here, you got to nap here, right? No, I am seriously counting the days. And I said, and if you really want it, I bet I can figure out the minutes down to the minute of when those kids go back. And what's so funny is last summer we were on vacation and my two middle kids were giggling with me. And they're like, oh, yeah, they were actually all my kids plus the bonus two, meaning the girlfriends of the boys. They were all sitting around laughing about me. And I was cracking up listening to their perceptions. And they were like, oh, yeah. Do you remember when we were all in school and like mom would be so cranky and crabby the whole summer and like constantly yelling and screaming at everyone? And then on the first day, she comes downstairs and she's all cutely dressed and happy. And she's taking you to school and she's bopping around and talking about what she's going to do that day. And I could not stop laughing because I was like, oh, yeah, I remember those days well. Like, yes. And they were like, oh, yeah, she's all cranky when we're home all day, but when we're going back to school, she's all happy. And I was like, yeah. And the problem with that would be, and it's like so funny because it's not like my kids felt unloved. They just were witnessing, this is what happens. Like I'm fully present as a mom. And if there were moments, I mean, there's slivers of where that doubt kind of creeps in and you kind of like laugh about, am I a schmuck of a mom? Or like, am I as good as I think I am? Because like, there are moments I'm exhausted. I'm like, you people need to go away from me. I'm exhausted by you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I laughed because I'm like, no, I did everything really. I mean, we had fun in our summers and we had moments and we had all these little rituals and routines and it was great. But they were right. I counted the days from the moment school got out. I knew exactly how many days until when they went back to school.
Yeah.
And I was happy on that day they went back to school. I was the most ecstatic. I mean, my energy was high. I was everything.
Well, and thank God somebody gave voice to that. Like you were able to give voice to that without it affecting, be vulnerable enough to be like, yep, this is where I'm at with it. This is exactly how I feel about it. I am not trying to change it for anybody else. I'm not trying to pretend whatever, because I wonder in that conversation with those mothers, if one of them maybe was like,
felt better about herself.
God, I get it. Yeah.
You don't have to say it because I don't want anyone to know it, but
yeah.
God,
yeah.
I like her energy.
Yeah.
And I used to walk around and be like, people, I am not up for the mom of the year. I mean, I am not even on that docket. I am over on the docket that says, you are the crappiest mom of the year and you're going to win that award. And I'm good.
I want to, because my thought was it's not good or bad, right? Because there is a mother who's like, oh, thank God they're back. They're home. They're mine again. I can have them I can do all the things, right? There's no right or wrong. There's just allowing. You just allow all of it, right?
Yes.
So there was a point for me. In fact, I got roped into being the room parent in kindergarten because this kindergarten teacher was she knew how to do it. She knew to she wouldn't say, sign up if you want to be a room mom. She was like, you used to be a teacher? That'd make you a good room mom. Why don't you be so she would, on like the sneak peek or whatever, like she scoped it out, So I was the friendliest and whatever, like room mom. And I'm like, okay, I'm a co-room parent with somebody. I was like terrible at it, like avoided it like the plague. I would put off emails until the last possible second. And I'm like, I suppose I have to tell them about stuff. And then I was terrible at it. Even the lady who was the co-parent, she was great. And so she just kind of was like this quiet, whatever. Even the gift giving at the end of the year, the kindergarten teacher gave me a better gift than we pulled together for her. She gave me a monogrammed beach towel that has it was like, it's still my favorite towel in the house. And I'm like, I'm a terrible room parent, but cool that I got a good gift.
Oh my God.
Whatever. But it allowed, but watching this other co-room mom allowed me to see oh, some people don't feel like they're going to a dentist to be room parent. Not everybody hates it like I do. oh, I can just allow for the people who love it to have their wonderful experience. Like,
Yes.
it's not for everyone. It's not for me. And that's okay. I was able to let it go and not feel like, well, now that I've done it once, maybe I have to do it the next year and have to be the
Or I
PTA
didn't do it very
president.
well, so let me do it again and get better because
Let me
I got
try
to get better at
again.
this. This is one of the
Right, right,
things that I
right.
get better at. Yeah. You
Let it
just
go.
realize. I
Yeah.
think it goes
Yeah.
back to that awareness. You have awareness of your gifts and your talents and what you're really good at and passionate and interested about. And then you have this other awareness too that's equally important and influential. And that is owning, like the movie, The Great, owning your darkness, owning
Yeah.
those parts of you that suck, not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. I
Right.
mean, and you can try it. I do believe there's some radical authenticity about trying something for the first time and realizing I kind of suck at this, or I really don't like this. I mean, I
Yeah.
really don't like this.
Yeah.
I want to go do something else. I want to have this feel, and I've always believed that, like, how do we feel? There's got to be a reason. What are we feeling here? Let's work on what our body is telling us, because I've always believed our body is very wise. Even when my kids were little, it would be like they didn't feel good. Okay, I wonder what that's meaning. They don't feel good. So what is it you need that you're not getting? What do we need to fuel you up with some more? Or how do we need to, orchestrate the environment around here so that your body feels better here?
Mhm.
So I do believe that we have these signals that can help us understand. But I mean, for gosh sakes, we live one life. This is an incredible life. Let's own our freaking darkness and not run from it, bypass it, numb it, distract it. Let's just own these parts of us so that we can have happiness and joy and fun, and like be on a playground and enjoy whatever we decide to go do while we're having fun in our life.
Mhm. Mhm. When you were talking earlier, trying to remember where we were, that we were talking about how we hit it off, I think. And I was thinking about how in conversation with my spiritual director a while back, she talked about, because I'm such a, again, I own where people are coming from. And so I try to be what they need me to be at any moment, right? My spiritual director is like, can you just be what you need you to be and stop trying to be me? Like, stop trying to perform for me, like, I'm here to witness you, not you give me something, right? So she and I had come up with this idea of having an entourage. She was like, let us be your entourage. Let me do my job and hold you
Mhm.
up. And so I was like, oh, who else is in my entourage? I want an entourage. So I started thinking about the people in my entourage, right?
Ooh, yeah.
And who that would be. Who do I want surrounding me that support me being the center of my life,
Yeah.
that hold me up and that can help when I need it. So like my therapist, my spiritual director, those are definitely my two members of my entourage. You
Mhm.
are a member of my entourage. But then I thought, maybe I wrote this down because I thought maybe you and I are in a parade instead of an entourage. I don't know why it shifted to a parade. I was like, maybe we're parading together instead.
Because maybe we are walking in the parade together and the entourage is behind us so that we can lead by example to show other women how you literally can walk side by side. You
Yeah.
don't have to be fully what the other person needs, right? That's not what relationships really always have to be. Now, you're going to have some that's what they are, right? But
Mm-hmm.
maybe also relationships are about just walking side by side,
Yes. Parading through life together,
parading through life or skipping
looking for
around
the
the.
celebrations.
Yes,
Yeah.
maybe it's just about being side by
Laughing.
side. I remember when my older son was a senior in high school and he had late start, and which meant that, like, my second son he took the car to school on time, and then my older son went to school an hour later. And I used to orchestrate my whole entire day so that I could drive him to school 5 minutes away. And there was one point someone said to me, because I said, oh, I have to take son, MK to school. And that my husband said, well, you don't have to. Like, we can figure out something else. And I was like, oh no, like, are you kidding? 5 minutes side by side with someone, pure joy. I get so much from that side by side.
Mm-hmm.
And I think,
yeah,
what if we looked at all of our relationships and said, which are the ones that need to be our entourage and hold us up? And which are the ones that are just here for fun, where we're going to hold hands, walk through the parade, skip around the park, and we're just here to be together,
mm-hmm.
witnessing, celebrating, inspiring, not holding you up and holding space for you and fixing, and we're just here to walk together.
Yeah, dress in wild clothes, do daring things,
beautiful
together.
Earrings and fancy rings and hats on our head, and
go out on limbs together and do crazy stuff, right?
Cheer each other on. Like, I just really believe if more women understood the side-by-side relationship we could have, the energy of earth and our groundedness would shift. The paradigms would shift. Mm-hmm. The world, the consciousness would literally be like a puzzle. Things would fall into place. If women, more so women than anyone else, or even if you identify as women, female, that feminine energy, right? If we understood the side-by-side relationship that we could be having, instead of the face-to-face or the holding one up on top of the other.
Yes. My father gave me the best example of that. Not one example. He lived that reality with everybody he met, mm-hmm. in a way that I think taught me naturally growing up how to be curious about people and open to who authentically they are, and then how to be happy about that. How to, like, so here's what he would do. He was a plant manager for Procter & Gamble. So mm-hmm. he would manage a plant of a few hundred people. So he just knew, he was also an extrovert. He loved hearing people's stories. That's what he thrived on, is like, tell me what is interesting to you. And that's how he would meet people. And then when we were out and about in the town growing up, and we would be at like a grocery store, and one of his employees we would run into one of his employees. This is what my dad would do. Oh, hey, Charles. Oh, so good to see you. Hey, come here. I want you to meet my kid. Hey, Pam, Barbara, y'all come over here a minute. And he would put his arm around me, my dad, and he would go, now this guy, this is Charles so-and-so, right? Now this guy has a catfish pond in his yard, and he raises catfish, and you wouldn't believe the stories he tells. Now, he would take whatever was interesting to them, and then he would show it off to everybody else. And people felt so seen.
Yes.
And he set that example for me growing up, of the way that you see people is you find out what captivates them, and then you be curious about that. Authentically curious about that. It's a really fun way.
That reminds me, when I had this job years and years ago, I was in a district that serviced kids with special needs. And so we would go into the regular school districts. And so they had partnerships. And so my job was an inclusion facilitator, where I would go in and work with all the teachers in the building, and especially all the teachers, general ed and special ed, surrounding that particular student or group of students, depending on who all was in the building. And there was this one moment that another facilitator and I were having this conversation, and I was sharing a story about one of my teacher. That's what our clients were, like teachers. And so, or maybe sometimes principals or counselors, but most of the time it was the teachers we worked with. And so I was sharing some story about things I knew about this teacher. And she also was working with this teacher because the teacher had a couple different students. So we would work, in our own field with our own expertise and specialty with this teacher. And she was like, how do you know all that? And I said, well, what do you mean? How do I know all that? We just talk. Like whenever I go to work with her or go and have a meeting with her, we spend the first 5 or 10 minutes just chit-chatting about our lives. And she shares all this. And she looked at me, and this was raw honesty. And it was one of those aha moments of, wow, we are all so different in how we approach our life. And it's not like one is right or wrong. It's just we are all so different for a variety of reasons. But she said, that's the difference between me and you. You care to get to know people, and I just care to go in there and do the work. And I was like, huh. And of course, my first reaction was, well, I care to do the work too. Like, don't negate that part of me.
Yeah, I don't only do this. Yeah.
But it was an aha for me when she said it, because I just really walked through life thinking, doesn't everybody want to get to know everybody else like me? Like, I don't understand this.
Mm-hmm.
I just love getting to know people. In fact, my daughter says, my gosh, Mom, every time we go in the store, you stop and you talk to people. Like, can you not be doing that? Can we just go in and go? And I look at her sometimes and I'm like, no, I don't know how to not do that.
Yeah.
I just start in, and next thing I know, we're like, I get the feeling maybe we could be best friends or something, even though we're not. But it's like that energy of just drawing in people because I am curious.
Mm-hmm.
I love to get to know people. I love their stories. I think there is value in our stories. That's really what caused me to say yes to the podcast and having guests on, is that there are value to our stories. You are why you are here for a reason. You have a story to tell, and you telling your story allows someone else to see their reflection in your story. That is what a mirror is. And when we can witness ourselves, or let me back up. If we are challenged to witness all of who we are, our wholeness, our worthiness, our deserving, our being, okay, the gifted part and the darker parts, then we need mirrors. We need experiences and people to come into our life that will mirror what we are afraid or unremembering of within ourselves. So mirrors have value, even though I think sometimes they're highly distorted. They have value to help us see these parts. And if I can just do my part in the world of consciousness, the oneness of life, which is to see and hear and offer love in a big, humongous way, because I have a lot of love to give and I know how to energize myself back up, then I'm doing my part. I'm plopping the pebble into the river and I'm watching the ripples go. If I can do my part, I want to walk side by side with more people than I do holding them up. Even though I know my service is to hold people up, I want to walk side by side. I want to just laugh and be free, and hilariousness of nothing really matters of what you think matters.
Yeah.
Like, do you understand?
Yeah.
It does not matter what we're eating for Thanksgiving dinner. It does not matter if the table is set pretty.
Yeah.
And sometimes I purposely want to not do it just to show it does not matter. It does not matter if your family eats around a freaking dinner table every night. What matters is, are you connected? Do you have purpose as a family? Do you communicate? Do you find ways to engage each other and to relate to each other and be there for each other? That's what matters. And, I had a lot of judgment early on in the way my family was starting to evolve. We were bucking all the systems. We were not what the textbooks told us we should be doing.
Uh-huh.
And yet it was working. Something was working in us. You know, we weren't eating around the dinner table. We were sitting in front of TV, whatever show we all agreed to, and laughing and talking. And I thought, well, we're laughing and talking, so there's got to be something good here. And just understanding these parts of this is who we are. This is who we are. Okay, let's just be this. Let's be us and see where we go.
The good, the bad, and the ugly, all of it together in a big mosh pit. And
I remember my older son one time saying something about my second son. I was like asking him, what do you think about? What do you think about? And he says, Mom, that's just who he is. And I thought, oh, okay, we got it. We got that part solved. We figured that part out about each other. We're good here. And if we can just understand those things. Now, you know me, I'm fully aware that there are moments you have to sort of like get out of a space with someone, right? You just have to, it doesn't work. I get that. I just really wholeheartedly believe the more we can walk side by side, honor, see, fully embrace people for who they are, because you are being your authentic self. You're not hurting people. When it gets into hurting people, when the projections become painful, there is a separation that has to happen.
Yeah.
But beyond that, if people can meet each other in the moments,
yeah,
beauty can arise.
Yeah.
Pam, again, oh my gosh, 3 weeks with you. I love this conversation. I love you. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. You are brilliant. You are brilliant. The way that you summarize all of this and bring it back to where you started and all of that, it's just an honor to watch and a treat. It's a treat for me.
You are welcome. And thank you for being here. You have brought so much richness to this moment, these episodes, this season. Yeah, I can't wait to see us keep going.
I know. I'm glad we found each other, sister.
I am too. And you just help me be more of who I am. And I value that and I appreciate that. And I don't take that lightly. That's a big appreciation for you being, seeing me and hearing me and just letting me be this, messy, meshy, all kinds of stuff kind of person.
It's beautiful. I love it.
So again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We will have Pam's information in show notes so that you can access her and get to know her, follow her on social media. And thank you again for so much for your listening. This week, remember who you are, brave confidence, courageously choose you, be the change, embrace growth, expand your awareness. You are a beautiful soul. I love you. Peace out, my friends.